When you're down at an installation,
the usual suspects.
how are you?
It just seems more realistic.
We're all about optimism.
Senior assistant, I need it.
I'm healthier.
I'm like, that's just the information.
Mike Sharp from the United States Air Force Academy. The security forces got help.
That's pretty good.
Group commander is
I'm at 21st Space Wing, the IMA.
okay, so we're doing okay, gotcha. Usually, I sit next to Colonel.
How well they're going to work for
Transportation Commissioner, good to see you this morning.
It's a little bit different. Gorman Neat.
Yes, he's a nice.
He's funny. So usually I sit next to him, and we each other from poking my eyes. It's a very. Last time I learned from him. This is still my second time. Most time my boss comes. He's outside today, but he had his computer and he got all kinds of work done on it. It's a good idea. He was on, he knock out some stuff.
Take advantage of your time.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. So, are you on orders for a little while?
No, I'm only I'm in just for this morning. So yeah, I kind of surge my support throughout the month.
I was just talking to my replacement. He is a Yeah, we're excited.
Good morning, everybody. Welcome to our monthly PPACG Board of Directors meeting. Come to order. I believe we do have a quorum. We'll go ahead and go around for some quick introductions. Andy Pico, City Council, Colorado Springs.
Mark Waller, El Paso County Commissioner.
Rick Sonnenberg, Acting Executive Director, PPACG.
Karen Rowe, CDOT Region 2 Director.
Terry Storm, Military Affairs Council.
Mike Shirley, United States Air Force Academy.
Robin Slade, Schriever Air Force Base.
John Doucette, Peterson Air Force Base.
Jim Nall, Public Transportation, Mayor.
Rocky Scott, Colorado Transportation Commissioner.
Rod Chisholm, Deputy Garrison Commander, Fort Carson.
Mark Dwalaby, Park County Commissioner.
Nicole Nicoletta, Mayor of Manitou Springs.
Sharon Thompson, Fountain City Council.
Paso County Commissioner.
Tyler Stevens, Green Mountain Falls.
Joe Gabler, City of Colorado Springs.
Norm Steentiller.
Well, we know where the problem's at.
My phone's right here. Norm Steentiller, County Commissioner. We're dealing with some phones that are near the microphones causing that static.
How far away is?
I don't know. It varies. Yeah, just a reminder, don't put the wireless device next to the phone. Or the mic, I should say. Okay, agenda approval. We have up there, and there is one modification to the agenda which came out a little over 24 hours ago, I think. Entertain a motion to approve.
So moved.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any comments, discussions? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Okay. Public comments for topics not on the agenda. Anyone from the public?
I'd like to introduce Richard Elsner, new Park County Commissioner.
Aye. Welcome aboard. Are you going to be joining us as a PPACG Board of Directors, alternate?
Sure.
Yes.
Yeah.
All right. Welcome to the crowd. Okay, so we have, next item is items on consent. Any request to pull an item on consent from the public? None? Seeing none, I'll entertain a motion to approve.
So move.
Second.
A motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All right. Racing through the agenda. Item 5A, Long Range Transportation Plan Goals and Vision. This is where it slows down.
Good morning, Jennifer Valentine. I'm a transportation planner with PPACG. So for those who were in attendance, I did present on this item last month in some detail. You had quite a bit of information in your packet from the goals workshop that we conducted, as well as the goals survey. At this point, all I really wanted to bring to you was to say that we do have a joint recommendation from our transportation and community advisory committees, as well as PPACG staff. They recommended approval of this item as presented in, I think it was, attachment 1 in your packet. Yep, 5A attachment 1 is the list of goals and the vision statement.
So I first and foremost want to apologize. I wasn't here last month,
Okay.
and so I missed this conversation. And when I saw this, I did discuss all of the goals as attachment 1. And that'd probably be good to put this up with city staff at Colorado Springs, and we really walked through it, trying to consider how we really try to be aspirational as we're moving forward, and also kind of aligning with what we see future grant opportunities to be, which I believe is how a lot of this is used. And I guess my recommendation is that I think that there are a couple words that could be added throughout these goals, and a couple of them, like the word technology, like the word redevelopment, and economically sustainable and regional, that could really make these goals a lot more aspirational and really help us to achieve some alignment with some better grant opportunities in the near and long-term future. We talk about being regional all the time, and so I don't know really the process. I guess if, I don't really want to parse through it today at the dais, but I would like the opportunity to see if we can add a few words here and there. So if it means postponing, I would really like to postpone one more month, unless there is some sort of huge rush, and I don't know what that might be. That's all.
Is there a timeline that we have to have this done by?
Well, we do have a timeline, and basically pushing this back a month pushes everything else back a month, so we have to figure out how to not have that translate to pushing plan approval back a month, because that can't happen. So we just have to squish something else in,
Can you
basically.
explain to me what that timeline is, and what the, you said, have to have something accomplished by?
Well, we have certain kind of pinch points that we've identified in the schedule. We have a big, long, 4-year schedule that we have printed out. The call for projects is a big one, but we just have to have certain things done before we can develop that application, and we have the needs identification, and we have a lot of things going on in the background. I'm not saying it can't be pushed back. It just, everything you push back, you start crunching other things.
I'm happy to pick it apart right now if you'd rather do that.
I think if all it is a few words like that, Jill, I think we should do that.
Okay.
With all due respect, we could have, we could come forward at this meeting with where you wanted those things inserted.
I have it right now, but the board would have to agree to that.
Let's do that.
Okay.
That's mine.
In goal number 1, I would like to add, under maintenance and operations, improve the efficiency, condition, and economically sustainable operations of the existing transportation network. I think in our city, we are spending more and more time trying to figure out how we grow to be economically sustainable. We don't continue to build new roads when we can't maintain the ones we have. So I think that is a really good value for this plan, and it speaks to how we are trying to be conservative with our funds. So I would like to do that. Do you want me to just keep going, or do you want to?
Okay, I'm going to make notes as we go, though. Economically what?
Just assume silence is
Sustainable.
Economic, okay.
silence is golden.
Yeah, I'd say go ahead and run through them all, and we'll just take it as a package.
I'm happy to do that. On number 3, and understand that this is not just coming from me, this is coming from folks at the city. both in the planning department and transit, and I am your transit rep here on the board, so I am always a voice for transit. Number 3 says ensure adequate and equitable access to destination using a variety of modes. We really just kind of modified that sentence altogether so that it would be, I don't know, broader and more aspirational to say improve access and connections for all users, for all modes on a local and regional scale with emphasis on reducing fatalities and human health impacts. So I'm sorry, I'm mixing 3 and 4.
Okay, so what goal are you on?
Improve access and connections for all users, for all modes on a local and regional scale.
It's 3, but I'm not seeing where she's reading.
So that's modifying that whole sentence, and I think there might be a way to just add a couple words that change that, but we can come back to that. On number 4, it says reduce hazards for all modes of travel, and we wanted to add with emphasis on reducing fatalities and human health impacts. It's just very bland, it doesn't speak to what we're really trying to do. And then number 5, it says improve competitiveness of the regional economy and residents' quality of life through strategic transportation investments. And we wanted to add including support for land use reinvestment and use of integrated transportation technology. And so that's the technology piece of smart cities where so much funding is coming down the pike that we want to be able to access locally and regionally.
What was the first part, including what?
Support for land use reinvestment. And of course, as a city, we are focusing a lot on redevelopment and reinvestment. And so we are trying to best figure out how we can explore grant opportunities.
Jill, I'm sorry. Could you just turn your mic on? It's hard to hear.
It is on.
I'm sorry.
My question with that, and you're kind of throwing this at us, so I'm just kind of...
I know. I
know.
didn't
So
want
it's
to
just
do
kind
that.
of my question with. No, it's okay. But my question with hearing land use reinvestment makes me wonder how, if that is almost too narrow for our regional partners that are far out east, that isn't necessarily an option, and we're trying to provide transportation for them out there. I
Well,
don't know.
you
I'm
could
just throwing
say
that out as a
investment
discussion.
and reinvestment, but the big part is the integrated transportation technology piece.
Right.
I think, let me go back to 3 really fast. If I'm just not trying to change the whole sentence, I could just say, ensure adequate and equitable transportation access for all users, for all modes. Variety of modes isn't really inclusive for multimodal, and I think it throws into question what modes you're referring to. I really want all modes of transportation, or you could say multimodal. And local and regional scale is important. We need to ensure we're talking about being regional.
Commissioner Waller?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chair. Yeah, see, oddly, that's my problem is with going to all modes. And I don't think that is our vision moving forward, to explore every single mode of transportation out there. We need to be strategic about the way we're thinking about what kinds of modes we are going to invest in. You know, modes that work out here in the West aren't necessarily ones that work in the East, and vice versa. And so that's why I liked a variety of modes as opposed to all modes.
Well, and I would suggest that we should be open to the idea that there will be grant opportunities for all modes, and we wouldn't want to limit ourselves, especially in the city, to pedestrian type of activities, to transit types of grant activities, or bike activities. These are all the types of modes that the future of our city, our young professionals, want us to invest in, and we should be considering those if we're talking about a plan for 2045.
Yeah, and I don't think using the words variety limits us from exploring different kinds of modes. I think it just sends a signal we're going to be strategic about the way we approach that, as opposed to, hey, we're going to shotgun, any sort of mode of transportation that's out there. We're going to consider it, kind of whether it's something that, works for our region or not. I don't think variety is limiting.
Then why couldn't we just say multimodal?
Well, I think multimodal is much more limiting than,
It's
than
actually the
other
nomenclature
terminology.
that's used, and it's recognized, so I think it speaks to those who are thinking about these things. If you look at Dr. Cogg's vision, it says all of those words many, many times, and it speaks to why they are receiving so many more grant dollars than we are.
Yeah, I'm not sure that's the reason they get so many more grant dollars than we do. But again, I would go back to, Dr. Cogg's vision is different than ours. The way you transit Denver is much different than the way you transit Colorado Springs and El Paso County. And I'm even less comfortable with the multimodal terminology. Yeah.
I'm okay with multimodal.
I'm not.
I don't see a huge difference between Denver and Colorado Springs, I guess, in that regard. 90%, 75% of the city is the county, and I would suggest that there are communities throughout our region who experience the need for multimodal transportation more and more, and we should not be, not using words because we're afraid of, having bike lanes occasionally on certain roads to create a connectivity network. Of one county.
We've got 3 counties here. Yeah.
I'm speaking directly to Mr. Waller.
I'm trying to speak for the PPACG
I understand.
board as a whole.
Yeah, we've with 3 counties. I'm not quite sure. I'm seeing the distinction between variety, multimodal. All gets a little bit encompassing, but
Wait, Mr. Chairman?
yes.
So
Yes.
I would,
Commissioner Littleton.
thank you. So I guess the question for clarification would be, if multimodal means exclusively that we would only have transportation projects that would include all forms of transportation as opposed to a variety would mean that if in this instance it's only streets that work, or if in this instance it's streets and bikes and pedestrian that work. Variety gives us an opportunity. I think it expands it as opposed to saying we're only going to do those things that will provide for all forms of transportation. And multimodal means, to me, if we're developing a street, it means by saying multimodal, we have to put in car, bike, pedestrian. And I think it limits us as opposed to expanding the opportunity with saying a variety for funding, at least in my perspective.
And if I might speak also. Well, with regard to those terms, just making sure this is on, I think the word variety covers it, because if multimodal is one form, then there's bimodal, then there's a single mode, and variety accounts for all of those, in my opinion. With regard to whether that's a sufficient buzzword for getting more grant money, because I'm a big supporter of pursuing more grant money, I just don't know. I think there may be other factors with regard to why Dr. Cogg is more effective at that than we are. If in fact that's actually a true statement, maybe it is true. And maybe we should very specifically look at why they're more effective at that than we are, and make sure we really understand it. My interpretation of that word variety, though, actually includes these other terms to include multimodal. So I am comfortable with the word variety of modes, and it absolutely does not exclude multimodal, doesn't exclude a single mode, doesn't exclude bimodal. I think it really covers everything. So that's my interpretation.
Okay.
Jill, I got a question for you.
Yes. Go ahead.
You really think that the verbiage in these goals is that closely tied to the grants? Is that the reasoning for this? I mean, we're not changing anything drastically, changing some of the verbiage. And there is, what's the difference between this and this? Is that the driving force?
I think it is. I think words really do matter, and it really speaks to who PPACG is and what we're trying to achieve and what our vision is, and whether we are just doing the same thing that we've always done, which to me this is what that's doing. And it doesn't say that we're trying to reach farther, we're trying to be strategic, we're trying to think about even what's going to happen in the next 10 years. And smart city technology, there are companies right now that are giving a lot of money to Denver, and we aren't getting any of that money from Panasonic and other companies because we don't even show that it's on our radar. And just adding the word technology about saying that we are open to those ideas and we are willing to have those conversations, yes, it's important. And it's certainly when we go out and ask for grant funding, they want to see that it's something we care about. This is what we care about.
Could I make a quick comment?
Yeah, go ahead.
I feel a little bit of the need to defend our process because this definitely isn't what we've always done. What we've always done is a list of 13 very specific goals. We actually completely revamped how we're doing things. We had, a special TAC meeting where we came up with new goals. We looked at what CDOT did, what North Front Range did. These flowed from an extensive survey and workshop, which we haven't done in the past. I personally don't have any issue with adding a few of the words you mentioned, like economically sustainable. I know there are others who have been interested in words like that. We took the time at the special TAC meeting to go through this kind of wordsmithing to hopefully avoid doing it, at a meeting like this. But I guess I'm a little bit uncertain of, both of these goals have gone through both of our committees twice now, and so I'm not sure. I mean, of course, you all can do whatever you feel you need to do today, but I have a little bit of heartburn about kind of backpedaling on that whole process.
So for starters, I do know that you guys did extensive work and you did reduce your goals, and I did want to start by saying how grateful I am that you guys really went through that hard work. We are the policymakers, though, and I think it's important that we really do dig into this and not just follow exactly what our committees do. If it just stops the conversation, I can be content with those two changes as long as we add integrated transportation technology to 5 and economically sustainable to 1. Then we can just be done. I'll go along with variety right now, although I will continue to fight for multimodal transportation.
Well, I was going to mention some of the same comments that Jennifer did, is that we had done a very extensive process on this and a very extensive public process and coming up with this and skinny these down. The other two that you get, I've got no personal problems with. Goal number 3, I was a little bit getting uncomfortable with trying to find that too much. Sharon, I think you had a comment.
Yeah, I wanted to kind of second what Jennifer said. We've had a lot of people work on this, and every city and town and county represented here has had a representative or a chance to have a representative present on those different committees and boards and commissions. And it has been a long process, and I think we owe it to the people who have volunteered their time to respect what they did and the goals they came up with, and like you said, the special meetings. I'm okay with adding the economically sustainable and technology, but beyond that, I think we're kind of getting a little bit beyond of what has already been kind of fleshed out through this process, and it is a citizen process, and while we are the board of directors, we do need to respect a lot of the input that was put into these goals by citizens and people that we hire to help us look out for those things.
If I might.
Commissioner?
Yeah, I think I can support both of those two as well. Economically sustainable speaks to me about considering the right investment up front so the roads will last longer, right? I think that's important, and I don't think that is restricting anything with regard to any other terminology at all. And then with regard to technology, I think the word technology in there is, I think, an appropriate thing because we want to maximize the use of technology. There's technologies out there that we're not taking advantage of in our community that would be very valuable. Whether we use the word integrated technology or not, I don't know. But the term technology, and I think you were proposing in Goal 5, for that.
Yes.
I'm comfortable with the word technology as well. I think both of those are not restrictive in any way, so I would be supportive of those.
Then I'm just going to make oh, did you want to see before I do that?
Go ahead.
I as well support the proposed changes. I think that generally these are really important for us to be focusing time on because this helps us as an organization to guide our future development of our multi-year planning. And I think this is where we have our hands on the levers to really be visionary and look towards the future. And I think adding some words are adding a little more depth and color to some of these items, not necessarily changing an entire dramatic direction. So I would be supportive of the suggested changes.
Thank you. No, just the two. So I'm just going to make a motion that
Go ahead.
we add to, is it 2040 or 2050? 2040. Oh, 2050. That add to the 2050 vision of item 5A in goal 1, add after the word condition and the words economically sustainable, and to goal 5, adding the words integrated transportation technology after investments, or somewhere where that makes sense. 'Cause I'm not really thinking right now.
I will second that.
Have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Any comments from the public? All in favor, say, I'm sorry, what did miss you?
Stan alluded to it. It sounds like your biggest frustration, Jill, is, or one of them at least, is our inability to receive as many grants as we possibly could. So I think it's important for us at the end of the day to keep that in mind, and we need to do a better job in that regard. And how can we do that? I don't know, but I think that's really important. Would you agree, Jill?
Well, I'm not necessarily frustrated, but I do want us to compete better with the other COGs.
Well,
And I think that this is one step to do.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think I'm seeing heads shaking up and down on that one. I think that's probably a consensus, and I think I would recommend the chair maybe consider some deliberate activity in that. And if there's a bunch of that already going on, maybe we can bring that up for discussion here and see if there's modifications to that so that we could be more aggressive about it and be more effective.
Commissioner,
I
Commissioner
think that
Waller,
is-
Commissioner Waller, how many people does Dr. Cog have? 3 up in Denver? Do they have 3? What do you call them?
Commissioners?
No, Dr. Cog has 3 lobbyists. Is it lobbyists? 3 paid lobbyists, I believe.
Yeah, when they have a firm, yeah.
Yeah. So that kind of makes it. We have to plan a little bit differently because obviously we can't afford to hire a bunch of lobbyists.
Well, we are doing some other stuff here. Yeah.
Volunteer lobbyists. As a lobbyist?
Okay, the chair takes it under advisement. We do have some other things going on, which we'll get into at another point. Okay, so we have motion and a second on the floor. Any other comments? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes.
Thank you.
And thank you all of you. Annual independent audit.
Casey Partridge, PPACG Finance. I am here to introduce Kyle Logan of Logan and Associates, our auditors. We had our regular audit, and you have those in your packet. We are asking that the board accept and approve the audit as presented. This is Kyle.
Thank you, Casey. My name's Kyle Logan. I'm with Logan and Associates. I'm the owner of the firm. And I'm here to present the results of our audit of PPACG for the year ended December 31st, 2016. And so to start off with, state statute requires that all local government entities in the state have an independent audit. And so we're here to, you guys comply with that by hiring an independent CPA firm like ours to come in and provide a financial statement audit and also what we call a single audit, which is the audit of your federal awards. Okay? So you have 2 documents in your packet. There is the financial statements and also what we refer to as a management letter. And I'll talk briefly about the financial statements. And so we do your audit in a two-part process. We usually come out near the end of the year and do a lot of preliminary work. That's where we look at your internal controls. And so we pick samples of like checks that are written, payroll transactions, and then we also do a lot of compliance testing with the federal programs that are required to be tested. And during this past year, we tested the Area Agency on Aging programs. They're a cluster called the Aging Programs by the feds. And then we also tested the JLUS project, the Joint Land Use grant as well, primarily because that's a fairly new grant to the PPACG, and so certain things require us to pull that in. And so going through that process, we look at a lot of compliance requirements that the feds require us to look at. One main thing is looking at the internal controls over spending the money, doing the program requirements, reporting the program accomplishments. And so in all that, we then are able to give us a basis for providing an opinion on those, on your federal awards. And so I'm happy to say there were no findings related to those federal programs. There were no issues with that. And so it also leads over into your financial statement audit, which, at the end when we come out second time, which is usually the end of February, 1st of March, and that's where we concentrate on the numbers. And we look at the numbers. We confirm balances with third parties. And we also, compare numbers between 2015 and 2016 to see if there's anything unusual or concerning to us. And I'm here to report that, in our opinion, we gave you an unmodified opinion. So what does that mean in layman's terms? That's a clean opinion. That's the best that a local government can receive from an audit firm. What does that also tell you as the governing body of PPACG? It tells you that policies and procedures that you have put in and your predecessors have put in over the years, that staff here are following those policies and procedures. And it was really important, especially 2016. Don't think it was me. So 2016 was kind of a transition year where you transitioned from Beverly Majewski as a finance manager to Casey Partridge as a finance manager. And so that having those policies and procedures in place, I may be speaking for Casey, but from an audit standpoint, to me it made for a smooth transition. And so that's good. And that is one thing we look at. That's why it allows us to issue a clean opinion. Okay? So that's all I have to say on the financial statements. Then the management letter that we refer to, it tells you what our responsibilities are as your auditor. It tells you what your responsibilities are as management. And we go through, and if there's certain issues that we came up with during the audit process, we'll bring them up in this letter. And so if they ever are included in this letter, it means it's something for maybe best practices or something that needs improvement on. Well, I'm happy to say that we didn't come up with anything this year. So kind of a boring year, I guess, one way to put it, but that's a good thing. That's good. Yeah. So and finally, I want to thank Casey and her staff, and also the Area Agency on Aging staff for pulling everything together for us, because they have the hard part of dealing with stuff sometimes that's happened a year and a half ago. And so it really makes our job a lot easier when performing your audit. Any questions?
Any questions?
Just a quick, I'm sorry.
Trustee Smith, did you have it?
I was just going to go for a motion, but if there's some further discussion, I'll hold off.
Did you have a question?
Just a question. You've obviously audited lots of firms and agencies.
Mm-hmm.
Did you say one of the challenges we always face is the systems themselves? Is PPACG's accounting systems, would you say, to industry standard in terms of ease of use and appropriate technology and so on. Any comments on that?
That's kind of a tough question to answer because every entity is different. And every board, how they govern is different too, as far as policies that they establish. But I would say, for all your policies and procedures that you have in place are very well, very solid. I don't know if that helps answer your question, and so, if I compare it to some of my other clients that I audit a lot of municipalities, medium-sized and small. And so I would say in the most part, you guys are probably fairly high up there.
I mean, we're not operating on Excel spreadsheets, QuickBooks, right?
No. And that's,
we're operating a system that's
you've got it.
appropriate to the type of-
Yeah, and to address that, if there were issues with your accounting system, that's what would go in this management letter. And so, it's easy as the term we use, audit through the system. So we're able to audit transactions that come through that system, especially in this day and age of technology and everything, a lot of stuff being electronic. So I don't know if that answers your question. Yeah, good.
You described my system pretty well.
Yes, thank you. It's great. Thanks for the work you did, and it looks like we've got a pretty good system in place, but you do mention in the letter, I'd like a little bit more information about it, a significant deficiency in internal control over compliance. So what does that mean? So a significant deficiency, that's terminology when we are auditing federal programs. And so that paragraph that is put in there, it's that fourth paragraph on the management letter. If you notice, the very last sentence is that we didn't identify any. But basically, significant deficiency would be that there is a weakness or there is a problem in your system that would allow a transaction to go through and maybe not have the checks and balances. I don't know if that makes sense, but so as we're auditing these federal programs, that's one thing we look at. Because you have two levels there. You have a significant deficiency, you have a material weakness. Material weakness is the worst. And that means that if you have a material weakness, there's an issue in your system that would allow or not allow a transaction to be reported that's materially misstating the financial statements. And just to be clear, you did not find that, right?
That is correct.
Okay.
Yes, because it
it's prominently worded in the paragraph, and then the finding of no deficiencies is the last sentence. So I just want to make sure.
Exactly.
Description of what you were looking for.
Right.
Not what you found.
Okay, any other, yes, Commissioner?
Yeah. I remember other audits that weren't as good as this one. And there was one, especially a issue with the area on aging, and there was, there were quite a few deficiencies. I can't remember the exact terms that happened. So I'd like to thank the new aging person, and then including myself, who just turned 60. But I want to thank, for that. And also, I want to say that I hope the new director can also run this place with a clean audit. That would be really nice if we can move on to the next director and have the same type of audit that we had with the last director.
Okay, any other questions, comments? Trustee?
At this time, I would, as treasurer, like to propose a motion to accept the wonderfully boring audit provided by Logan Associates.
Motion and second. Any other comments? All in favor?
Aye.
All right. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
And congratulations. We're appropriate. CDOT Tier 1 priority projects.
Good morning. I'm Ken Prather, PPACG Acting Transportation Director. Last fall, August, September timeframe, CDOT developed its 10-year implementation plan with its Tier 1 and Tier 2 list of projects. They came through the TAC and the CAC and came to you for your recommendations on this list. There was no money identified for the projects. The plan was developed with the to be prepared for any money that might appear suddenly sometime from somewhere. With the proposal of House Bill 1242 and other legislation this spring, the reality of that funding came a little closer, and CDOT began review of its Tier 1 list of projects. This, the proposal the recommendations you made last fall and CDOT's current list of projects are in your packet. On page 9 of attachment 2, which is the PowerPoint presentation, CDOT has identified their revisions, their proposal for this spring. TAC and CAC and staff have reviewed and agree with this proposal, with the difference that we would like to see more funding for US 24. After it went through the TAC and CAC committees, it was identified that the State Highway 115 Rock Creek Bridge is right on our boundary, and the road, the widening associated with that is actually south of our boundary. And so CDOT is proposing to move that project to the Tier 1 list in the Central Front Range, and to move the US 24 project for $20 million up above the, out of that other options line, and move it up into the other group. So it'll be included in our proposal for this region for Tier 1 projects, if and when money suddenly becomes available from somewhere, sometime. At this point, I'm going to turn the time over to Mr. Mark Andrews of CDOT, who will provide some more information on the projects and answer any of your questions. This is not an approval item. It's a CDOT list. They are seeking recommendations and comment from you on these projects for their list.
Thank you, Ken. Good morning. Mark Andrew with CDOT. Good to see you all. You know, as Ken stated, we had a little bit of a fire drill a few weeks ago where it looked like 1242 was going to go forward, and we asked, you know, there was an outreach to the locals that said, you've seen the Tier 1 list, you've seen the 10-year capital list. Are you sure those are the projects that you want? And so what we decided to do was come back to PPACG to say, hey, here's the projects that we think we want. And in addition to that, we did add some money to PPACG in terms of number of projects. As you see, we were looking at $277 million. It was a lower amount before, so we did adjustments within the region to bring that number up. But there was a question that did come up. Commissioner Steen had a question about what projects are we missing? And so what I did is I went back through and I scoured through the 2040 plan to look what projects are on that plan, constrained or unconstrained, to make sure that are we getting it right? In other words, are we addressing where we're getting congestion and safety problems now? So I'd like to hand out that list. I'm not going to go into the details on these projects other than the fact that well, I guess I could go into them very quickly. I'm not going to go through the PowerPoint exclusively and look at the corridors, but I will generally discuss each project. So the first one, I-25 Congestion Relief Fountain to Academy, we and our director, Karen Rowe, felt that we should be looking at congestion relief on I-25 from Fountain to Academy, and specifically we're looking at those 4 projects. We really want to address widening with 2 projects that go from State Highway 16 at mile marker 132 all the way up to 135. So that would be State Highway 16 to South Academy. Those are the 2 lower projects on that list. In addition to that, we are getting a lot of congestions at Garden of the Gods to Fillmore. We did not build those outside auxiliary lanes when we built the Cosmics project. In addition to that, we're looking at ramp metering. we know that ramp metering can't work unless we address those auxiliary lanes. So as a separate project, that first bullet, we'd like to build those auxiliary outside lanes and connect Fillmore to the Garden of the Gods. And then for $6 million, and we've got additional money to add to the ramp metering, we're looking at 10 locations based on a ramp metering study that we did a year ago or 2 years ago. And we may expand that into more of a smart ramp metering system that is more interactive with mainline traffic. So the bottom line is we're looking at putting $140 million on I-25. We feel that's the location that has the most congestion and accidents in the Pikes Peak area. And then we don't want to take off the list the two projects on State Highway 21, research, and then also there is a project going on with Northgate Development to expand the interchange at I-25 and State Highway 21, and we would like to add $10 million to that project to bring I-25 up to standard because we've got insufficient bridge heights and shoulder widths. So we'd like to add money to that project. And then other projects that we'd like to address is $30 million off the top for our portion of the GAP project that goes from Monument to Castle Rock. That would just build Monument to Monument Hill. And that would be given to our sister region, Region 1, to build that project in conjunction with their project. The next one down, US 24 Garrett to Stapleton. US 24 is becoming a more congested roadway. We're getting a lot more accidents out there. Years ago, 24 was one of PPACG's top priorities. A lot of money got shifted to 24 West to complete the EA. We think it's important to address at least a widening project from Garrett Road to Stapleton and relieve some of that congestion. And then as Ken talked about, the State Highway 115 widening section is Rock Creek South. It's the bottleneck section that goes from 4 to 2 back to 4 lanes. That section, we think we can do that for around $20 million. And what we'd like to do is move that back into Central Front Range, because that really is a Central Front Range project, and move up the $20 million back into the Tier 1 list for US 24 West. So the only project that we really bumped off the list is the State Highway 21 at Constitution and Carefree interchange. And we see that that is a need and a priority for PPACG, but it doesn't rise to the top as far as congestion relief at this time. We think that we're going to have that need in anywhere from 15 to 20 years as the growth continues in the east and northeast. So we're not ignoring powers. We just are simply saying at this time that it's probably not a priority. So I'm going to hand out that list and quickly go through what was not on the list. Some of those I've already talked about. Karen, I don't know if you want to add anything at this point as far as status of the House bill. Again, right now it's been killed, and our charge is to go ahead, continue with the effort to at least get a list of projects ready to go if something reemerges.
Yeah, I think that's probably good timing. So House Bill 1242 right now is not on the table from the legislators. There's still a chance that a private organization will fund a ballot to be added, like get signatures, and this list would then become, they would look to CDOT to help create this list. So before there was kind of urgency and a time frame for us to get this list together for $3.5 billion if it was going to go to the vote of the people. Right now, 1242 is dead, and Senate Bill 267 is active. And so Senate Bill 267 right now would have a list that would have $1.6 billion for CDOT capital highway or improvement projects, multimodal could be. But of that, 0.2 million would go to, or billion would go to transit. But the urgency on that list isn't quite as quick, so we wouldn't have those funds, or we wouldn't need to have those projects technically identified until July 2018. However, we would probably do it faster, but it would be more, and it wouldn't have to go to the vote of the people, the Senate Bill 267. So right now, that's looking like it is approved to move forward. But we'll see, I guess, the legislative session. Today's the last day. So, again, it always changes. So, internally, we went over, okay, well, we finally came close to our $3.5 billion list. But now we might have a $1.6 billion list. And so we're kind of looking to the transportation commissioners and to stack, like, what, how would that happen? So would it be 3 projects statewide and that's all we can fund, but those are the biggest ones? Or would it be a geographical equity type thing and then go back to the planning partners and say, what do you want as your priority? So we're just not sure yet on that list. But again, like some of the changes on that 10-year capital development list was we're not sure when it's going to happen. So the CFIs on powers were something we were studying to see if that was feasible or not. But if it's really coming up, it would be, no, we don't. Right now, we think I-25 is a higher priority than those intersections. But so we just want to get your thoughts on how this list looks. It might come back if a private organization says, no, we still want to see that $3.5 billion list and a state tax increase. We'll go out for signatures to get it on the ballot, and then the people were to vote it in. I'm just saying that's one possible scenario that we don't think is likely, but could be there.
Thanks,
so I don't know how much you want to give input or feedback on this list, but we're still open to listen.
During your presentation, Mark, you mentioned something that I think some of the folks on this table are unfamiliar with. And it's an item called a shoulder, something on the side of the road, I believe. We don't know about them in the Park County. We'd like to learn more about
They
them.
exist everywhere but Park County, Mark.
I think they're used for something when the winds get really high and cars start spinning out off the highway, that ambulances and so forth can sit on them instead of stopping the highway. And maybe, we could think of some rural equity instead of only funding 1 or 2 projects. I mean, I know that one bridge in Denver is really important, that $1.5 billion bridge, but what about the rest of the state?
And Karen can jump in there, but I want to say thanks for having CDOT up the other day to talk about your needs, and it is good to see you again. The projects that we've identified, especially on 285 and Highway 9, are priorities. I know that we need to. I know you are. I know we have to address the shoulder widening, the passing lanes, those type of things. But with the limited funds that we have, even with the 3.5 billion list, it's difficult to catch them all. I know 285, for example, is a $200 to $300 million need to widen through Bailey on 285, and it's no different than Powers Boulevard. It's one of the hundreds of billions of unfunded projects that we have ready to go that need to be done. So I sympathize. I hear your concerns, and I agree with them. I know that shoulder widening is critical for safety. We have 15 million on the Central Front Range list for 285. We're going to do the best we can with that money and address passing lanes and possibly shoulder widening where we can.
And I want to thank Karen and my past directors that I've had, Jeff Coleman and Tony DeVito. You guys and the engineers, you guys do an incredible job with the amount of money that you guys do. I totally understand. And I think it's really disappointing that the $3.5 billion didn't go through, because it added up to like $100 a person. It's so little what you pay for your transportation system compared to what you get from it. And but thank you to both of you. And I'm sorry.
No, it's
and what I would say is that you're part of also the Central Front Range, and so we do have State Highway 67 shoulder widening also up there, and
some pavers heading towards that way.
well, yeah, I think we're paving 24 west,
Right, 24.
just with our maintenance forces.
I appreciate it.
Yeah, so we're always trying to do more. Like you said, we have $1 billion shortfall every year of transportation needs. We're just trying to maintain what we have and do little improvements where we can with the money we have. But,
So again, excuse me.
Commissioner Waller?
I was just going to say, as much as I would like to see the Powers project between Constitution and North Carefree accomplished at $115 million, as that's right in the heart of my district, I think this list is prioritized correctly, and it has my support and endorsement.
Speaking as the city council rep for that particular area, too, I kind of agree. I'd love to see that, but I recognize the higher priorities. One comment I will make, though, are you jumping into this list?
I can go through this list real quick if you'd like.
I don't think we necessarily need that, do you?
We spent an hour with it on Friday.
Okay.
Yeah. Work session, you all invited back, work sessions were good.
They're very, and we did go through this list, I think, on Friday, most of it.
I cleaned it up a little bit, and the only project I failed to mention on this list, we do have HOV lanes planned for I-25, which should add lanes 7 and 8 in the future. They're identified as HOV lanes for around $70 to $100 million, but again, it's going to be on that unfunded priority list right now. But it could be a future express lane project, if congestion rises to the top. And again, we want to be able to address the ramp metering first and then look at that as a future option.
Okay. Yeah, Commissioner?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chair. Just a real quick question on the ramp metering. I'm not that familiar with that particular one. I just have a real simple question, though. Does the ramp metering drive light timing to optimize?
Yes.
It does.
Okay.
And with a smart system that is being piloted in Denver on I-25, if it works, we'd like to do it down here. That system would optimize the ramp metering flow with mainline flow and adjust the signals not only at the ramps but potentially side street intersections or ramp intersections, so that it's to optimize the system without congesting the local roads is the goal.
Thank you.
And one other comment, just to highlight an item I know some of our military representatives are particularly interested in, is the State Highway 94 corridor study, and we did discuss this on Friday. And it is being funded through another means, so that's why it's not rising to Tier 1. But we are definitely keeping that on the radar, just so you know.
Right.
So at this point, yes.
I appreciate the widening down to exit 132. I really want to keep on your radar, though. We really need to keep working on going south on that. I know there are a lot of accidents at 132, but there's a lot of accidents at 130. We had a huge one last week. It shuts down the entire freeway for hours. Everybody sitting there, and there's really one lane on Highway 85 to get around, and it just really makes it quite tough. And then, down to 119 down by Ray Nixon also, for some reason, there seems to be a lot of accidents down in that area, too. So I appreciate everything you guys are doing down there already with the different things, but I think we need to really consider keeping on our radar that needs to be widened also, since it is a a public safety issue for our guys to get off the road, like have room to work, and it's a main truck corridor too. So, thank you.
With that,
Okay, we don't have this as an action item, but it is a recommendation for anybody for changes. I think it's a good list to go forward. It is going for our unfunded priority list, and I'll keep that one in mind. There isn't a penny behind it yet.
Okay.
I think you got, yeah.
Is why this could not be an action item, because the 267 does list, it does mention the project list in text, in the legislation, referring directly to this list. And during SAC meetings, they ask for, what is the Pikes Peak's list?
List. Okay.
So, Mr. Chair, I respectfully ask we move this to an action item. If it's not, to vote to, Mr. I would move to approve the proposed Tier 1 list, as Pikes Peak's list.
That's second.
Okay, motion and a second. I certainly have no objection. Do we have any other comments? I believe, come on up.
Mr. Chair, thank you. My name is Kevin Walker. I'm the first vice chair of the Community Advisory Committee. We heard this matter at our meeting last month, and we take these lists very seriously, as I know all of you do, and don't particularly like fire drills either. But we did spend a lot of time working on this, and we made a motion to move US 24 I-25 to divide into the list, and that was our recommendation.
I believe he did say that he did do that, did he?
Yes.
I thought I heard him say that, but I don't see it on that. I don't see it on that.
It's not
So.
shown, but that's.
Okay. Yeah, we did that.
Then thank you.
Line 29, project ID 20.
Yeah. Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any other comments, questions? Any other comments from the community? All in favor?
Aye. Aye.
Any opposed? Okay.
Okay, I'd like to take 5 minutes and do a real quick update of Cimarron, if you'd like. Is there time for that?
I think we.
Okay. And then I would like to introduce a new employee of ours, Scott Dalton. Can you stand up, Scott? Scott is our new local agency coordinator, and he will be addressing this board occasionally for STIP amendments for local agency projects. He's got a staff representing both the south and north half of Region 2, so he's a great find for us, and I think he'll do a great job for us. So, thank you, Scott.
Great, thanks.
All right, and
if we have, let me hold the Cimarron update to item 6F, the CDOT monthly update.
Okay, sounds good. Thank you.
Okay. Next item up is the appoint Commissioner to Southwest Chief and Front Range Passenger Rail Commission. And to set the stage, legislation passed and signed into law gives PPACG 1 seat, and we are supposed to appoint someone within 6 days.
Yeah, by May 15th.
By May 15th. So we have at this point an opening for a commissioner. So I was half tempted to toss my name in there just so I could say commissioner, but.
Most envious.
Councilwoman Gabriel.
As I mentioned at the executive committee, as your transit rep and executive committee member, I would be honored to serve in this capacity.
I'll take that as a self-nomination. We have one nomination on the floor. Yes. Any other? Yes, Mayor.
Rocky.
Hey.
Any interest?
Yeah, I'm sorry.
Any interest
Thinking
in?
about transportation funding, forgive me. What's the?
Ideal. Any interest in being
Walk
the?
into that trap, is that what you
Yeah.
said?
Mm-hmm.
In doing what?
In being our appointment to be the commissioner of the Southwest Chief and Front Range Passenger Rail Commission for PPACG.
Anybody who'd be more interested?
Well, Jill nominated herself, and
Oh.
I would like to nominate you, but I won't do that if you're not interested.
I'll serve at the pleasure of the board.
Is it specified to be an elected official or?
No, it doesn't. It can be staff, in fact.
Okay, I just want to make sure.
Yeah, no, it's wide open.
Staff or elected official?
as I read the legislation, it was staff or elect or member of the board.
Senate Bill 153 is what
Right.
we're referring to.
Yeah.
I like Rocky.
It doesn't preclude it, so far as I'm aware. We played that game once or twice, yeah. So I guess that's 2 nominations in on the floor. Any others? Going, gone. We have 2 nominations. So I guess we'll have a vote. Ready for a motion?
I make a motion that we appoint Rocky Scott as our Commissioner to the Southwest Chief and Front Range Passenger Rail Commission.
Okay, well, I think we have two nominations, so would we, I think it would be more appropriate if we did a vote, one or the other, as opposed to one specific. So we have 2 on the floor.
How about this? Okay, Robert's rules would say we move the nominations be closed.
Okay? Second? We have a motion, second. All in favor?
Aye. Now we would call the vote.
Call the vote.
And we can, I don't know if we do a secret ballot or raise hands or
Let's just do raise
however
hands.
you want to do it.
Do a raise hands.
So,
So we have 2 nominees on the floor. We'll take them in the order that they were nominated. All in favor of Councilwoman Gabler? Put your hands up. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. All in favor of Commissioner Scott? I think that carries. Do we want to appoint then Councilwoman Gabler as the alternate? All in favor? Aye. Very well. I think we have it.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to just make a note on history. This is just I'm kind of a little bit of a history buff. 148 years ago today,
Oh, yeah.
the golden spike for a railroad joining the East and West Coast was dropped in Promontory Point, Utah. So May 10th, 1869.
We've appointed our commissioner on the
On the Rail Commission.
On the Rail Commission on the anniversary. All right. Okay, next up, state legislator update. Legislation.
Okay, so when we made this,
Changing quickly.
well, this was initially written more than a week ago. So we had asked for you to ratify monitoring Senate Bill 303, which has been postponed until the 11th, which is after the session, so is dead. We had asked you to recommend that we monitor 1348, prohibiting high occupancy vehicle requirements. That died May 4th. And we had asked to recommend support for House Bill 1362, a plan for addressing statewide infrastructure needs, which also died on May 4th. So, I don't know if you want to ratify those positions still so that they are formally on our legislative tracker for the year.
I don't see any point in doing that.
Okay. And then the last thing to let you know is Senate Bill 267, which is the only remaining transportation bill we had chosen to monitor. It did pass through all of its committees and is being seen on the House floor today, which... Yeah, so we will know soon what the status of that bill is. That bill is handling hospital provider fee, transportation funding, education funding, marijuana taxation increase, something else. It's a very complex bill, and if anyone would like to grab me, I've got... Yeah. I'm more than happy to answer any questions that I can. I am more than likely to tell you that Mark probably knows more than I do on the bill details.
It turned into an omnibus bill, as the comment that several of us have up here.
Yeah.
It's
36 hours ago, it was 76 pages long, but I don't know what it is today.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I don't think we have any action at this point. I would ask you to update us if there's a change before the meeting ends,
I will do my very best.
which I suspect may be the case.
I bet you Sharon will
Good
get a
chance
text
that
message
could happen.
before I do, though.
Yeah.
So, thank you all very much.
Thank you. And the last action item is Executive Director Search Committee update and a request. I'll turn this over to Commissioner Steen.
Thank you. So you have a summary, item 5F in your agenda, gives kind of a summary of the actions of the Executive Search Committee. We've been meeting on a weekly basis. We met last Friday, and with some discussion, one of our action items for this last meeting was to consider whether we should expand the search. We have reported that there were 22 applicants for the position. This was advertised nationwide. Pretty confident what venues we advertised that in. So 22 applicants, one of those already taken a position, now 21. Only half of those, 10, meet the qualifications of the application, 10. Of those 10, 3 have any previous experience working at an MPO of our size and scope, 3. So the recommendation of the search committee is to expand the search to embrace a wider breadth of experience and essentially hire executive search firm. Now that comes with a price tag, and here's the ask. We have not selected a search firm because we haven't given the approval of this board to proceed, but it is the recommendation of the executive search team that we conduct a search of executive search firms with a fee not to exceed $60,000. Now, why would we pay $60,000 for a search? In our view, and I guess many else are on this table, is this is a very important position for our future. This is an investment, not an expense. And where this money would come from, we're prepared to answer your questions. Likely this, because the previous executive director's salary is not accruing in our cash balance sheet. Simply because he's not here doesn't mean we have cash accruing. His salary was paid on a refund basis based on the work he performed. Since we don't have an executive director, no work is being formed, therefore there's no reimbursement of those monies. So there's no cash that's building up to conduct a search. That means that we have, and in fact we even researched the question, can we look at future work to be formed by going to grant sources that would possibly fund executive search? The answer, generally we believe, is no. So any monies would come for an executive search would have to come from our administrative costs paid for largely by dues of this member organizations. We do have a balance sufficient to cover that, and in fact, if I think it's $140,000 roughly in our dues balance that is uncommitted towards specific projects. So generally the funds are available. So there's, in our view, the search committee, there's two questions here: is the money available, and is it worth additional expense? And in our recommendation, yes and yes.
Let me come around. Commissioner Littleton, I think I saw you first.
Thank you. As the vice chair for that committee, I was obviously in the notes. You can see the dissenting voice for that. I look at the application job description for the executive director, and of the 22 that we have, certainly while one of the requirements was a master's degree in planning, MPC, it says number 2 was also or an equivalent combination of training and experience. And I don't think we went back and considered those second things of equivalent combination of training and experience. We just excluded them initially, and I think that puts many more people into that category who are well-qualified candidates. Certainly, I would be amenable to expanding the search should it be necessary to do so. If we actually went through all of the candidates, the 21 candidates that we currently have, find out a little bit more about them. What is some of that equivalent or combination of training and experience? What is some of their, planning processes? So I've prepared, when I was on the Colorado State Board of Education, and we were looking for a new commissioner of education for the state of Colorado, we developed a rubric, and we, through that rubric, evaluated each one of the candidates and said, here are the 20 things we're looking for according to what we've asked them to apply for the application. What are the qualifications that we're recommending? I have that almost finished here. We don't need it to, I think, present to our committee for another week and a half. But what I would like to do, if people here are amenable to it, is because this is going to be the group that's going to basically be voting and looking at who is that candidate. So I have taken 20 different items from the, and pretty much just bullet pointed them for what we're looking for in a candidate, put them in a rubric, and would like to send them out if there's like a total of 100 points. So you'd rate, from 1 to 5 for each one of the candidates. What I want to make sure of is that there's not something that's not in here that we are looking for as a body. Is there something that are soft skills that we don't have specifically written in here that we go, we know that to succeed in this, we might want to have the following added. And so if it would be acceptable to this body, before considering whether we're going to move forward or not, which of course I'll be amenable to if none of the candidates, fit that job description that we've talked already about and aligned and had people apply for, put it out to this body to have you respond back with, do these 20 qualifications, is this what we're looking for according to what we've put out for a job description? Is there anything that we needed to add to this so that we can accurately and consistently evaluate each one of the candidates, whether they're just from the 21 that have applied, or should we agree to move forward with a search firm, any others that apply? So I'd like to have that on the table for consideration as well.
Norm, was there any consideration, if you're a bottom line kind of guy, what if you take $30,000 of that 60 and put it to the salary instead of using the search firm? Is that a possibility? I got a feeling that 42 was a limited number because of salary, or it could have been. Does that make more sense? And then we have possibly better applicants with a larger salary. Would that be an approach?
Well, we did look at several different scenarios, Mayor. Of course, a one-time cutoff, the search firm would be a 1 year and not a continuing annual salary payment, so it would be a very short-term fix at best. But we did look at different scenarios. Now, the salary, we even looked at the salary ranges, what might be possible, how we could economize on a salary in order to contribute more to a search. Things like a car allowance and medical allowance for the family and a whole range of things. But the general consensus was, and this was not without dissent, even in our executive search committee, was that we need to do what's necessary to find the best possible executive director. So, yes.
So just to provide a little bit more information, I think from the perspective of the city, and I serve on the search committee too, I firmly support expanding the search, partly because the city of Colorado Springs, to include the mayor and the council leadership, believe that this is a very important position for not just our community but for the region. Both the Chamber EDC and the CONO, Council Organization of Neighbors and Organizations, also agree that this is a huge position for our community. At the meeting, the search committee meeting, we did discuss all of the issues that we're discussing today. We did do a thorough job description, so I think we're headed in that right direction there. We have really reviewed all of the options, and let's be clear, at that meeting when we discussed this, we did vote unanimously to move forward in this regard. So there may have been some discussion and dissent, but we did vote unanimously to move forward in this discussion. And we had several committee members, to include Mayor Nicoletta, who I think really worked through that, and I'm grateful that she saw that this is probably the right direction for this committee right now. We need to move forward. Time is of the essence. If we move forward and then decide we have to then start again, it just loses time, where right now I think the really strong leadership position is to move forward with expanding the search.
And to be clear, even if we do decide with your approval today to expand the search, all candidates we currently have would be added in the pool. We're not excluding or disqualifying any of them. All 21 would be added into the pool for full consideration.
Councilwoman Thomas?
Yeah, part for me is, you said you would explain how you're going to pay for it, because we were told recently that things are pretty tight because that money isn't being spent and some of it reimbursed for. So I had heard a quote of $20,000 to $25,000 bantered around originally. So to see 60 here today kind of surprises me.
It'd be the extreme
So-
high end.
Right, but I think we had a way to figure out how to pay for the 20 or 25, adding another potentially 40 under that cost. I really would like to understand before we continue the discussion of hiring somebody, how we're going to pay for it.
Casey?
Yeah, we did ask, no.
I share the same concern.
No, it's,
We can't afford not to, Mrs. Mines. What's that? I know we can't afford to make a mistake, but we can't afford to incur a bill that we can't pay for either.
And I was just saying we can't afford not to, but I think Casey has a much better explanation.
Casey Partridge, Finance Manager of PPACG. I have been spending a lot of time looking at our dues allocation. We had some concerns in January because of some salary that we had to charge to it. I've worked with department heads on reallocating some of their funds to free up more dues and give us more of a cushion. I have gone through the Federal Register, the rules of what we can charge to indirect. Indirect is what we charge to each of our grants. And that's based upon the expenses that each of our grants incur. We charge that out. What we can charge and what we can bill are two different things. So sometimes what we bill for indirect is higher than what we charge, and sometimes it's the opposite. Right now, we are in a mode where we are charging more to the grants than we are actually collecting in indirect. But we are also have a cushion right now through year end that I've calculated of about $124,000 in dues that we have not allocated as of yet. Again, I monitor this on a biweekly, monthly basis to make sure what that range is going, because it goes up and down. There is also in the budget that has not been planned as of yet is $30,000 for the strategic plan, which is budgeted to be used out of dues, and that's not part of the $120,000 cushion that I see right now. So again, when we have positions that are open in our grants, we are not allowed to charge as much to indirect and collect as much. So that causes us a variable that we have right now, especially with the transportation position open that we have.
Okay, so roughly, we would spend half if this
Cushion.
were spent. And then what kind of money do you anticipate spending if someone were to have to be flown out here for the interview with their family and different things? You got to add up the whole process. You
Right.
can't- So how much money would you anticipate that would cost out of that?
I would say probably between $10,000 and $15,000 for a move if you've got somebody that you're moving out with a whole family and all of their relocation costs, and probably around to bring out a number of candidates. If a number of candidates were out of the region, probably another $5,000 total.
Per candidate or?
No, total.
so now we're at 80.
Thank you. I was getting there. I just don't like to do it in public real fast. I like to take my time. So, okay. All righty. Okay, thank you. So we would basically spend 80 out of the 120 on this. Okay, thank you.
I was thinking 40 and 20, but I'm sorry.
Well, a high end of 60.
high end.
The low range, that was the range.
I understand, but it's always good to
Yep.
Yeah, I mean,
Commissioner Waller?
yeah, I mean, it seems to me, I think you got to assume that if we're authorizing $60,000 to be spent, that's what's going to be spent. I mean, I just think you have to make that assumption, whether it's right or not. And I'm going to support this. I agree. We need to do this, but I share the frustration. At the beginning of the week when people were contacting me saying, "Hey, we'd like you to get on board with this," it was $20,000, and all of a sudden that number's grown to 60. And it's just, I don't know. That's the frustration that I think my constituents have with government in general is, here's what we think it's going to cost, but let's ask for 3 times more. It's just a little bit of a concern. That's all. I agree. We need to move forward with a search firm. I agree that we can't afford not to hire a search firm, but I think that reasonable minds can disagree on what it means to say we can't afford to not do this and what the cost is.
Commissioner Littleton?
So just as a lighter note, if we, whatever we limit it to, whether it's 60, 40, 20, Commissioner Gabler, or Commissioner, listen, Councilwoman Gabler volunteered to personally pay for the rest of it. So I'm just putting it out.
It's worth it.
Mayor?
Yeah, so should we just do a less number for not to exceed, right? If it was originally 20, we know the low end is 20, 25, why don't we just say, 40 or 30? It doesn't have to be 60, right? It was just put out there. So if we're at least in agreement that we want to do it, we can negotiate what that not to exceed number is.
Even the selection of the final candidate will be a decision of this board, not the search committee. We'll provide you a recommendation. It is still your burden to decide.
Yeah, like 20,001.
It's going to be like buying a new used car.
Yep.
Commissioner?
Just one thought in the context of the amount. The fact is, we want to hire a highly competent search firm. Otherwise, the fact you hired a search firm, as we all know, isn't sufficient. It has to be somebody who really knows how to do the job. So the ultimate investment, as Councilwoman Gable says, is I think needs to be tied to whatever the market price is for somebody who meets those criteria. So I don't know how hard you want to make the number, or if you want to bring the number back to the board after appropriate consideration of what the market is telling us it's going to take to get the right person, because I don't think you want to hire the cheapest option. You may end up right back where we are right now.
Interesting. Okay.
Let me just say that regardless of what cap you decide today, the Executive Search Committee will execute all due diligence, keep that actual expenditure low. We get it. I mean, we're on the board too, so we'll take the charge. The discussion here is, even if we decide a very high number, I understand your charge will be to get the best possible optimal performance of our search firm and to find the best possible candidate for the lowest possible cost, focusing on quality over the dollar.
I just like to know the total. We don't know. No, I just want to know the estimated total. Add it up.
Up to 60, yeah. He passed. Councilman?
Very specifically, comments were made. Why expend money if you're going to go cheap? Important issue is the trust in the search committee. And I'm willing to make a motion to accept the search committee's recommendation of the $60,000. We start putting boundaries and caveats and everything else, we all might as well be the search committee, and then we're going to go ahead and hamstring the process. I trust their due diligence. I trust their thought process, and I would make the motion to accept their recommendation.
Okay, I have a motion and a second. Yeah, I was going to, looking at the fact that the search committee would make the selection, and normally we do that would be the executive committee, but half the executive committee is on the search committee, so I think that's covered. And I think you would have our acting director has a role to play in actually making that choice too. So I think there's an interplay that the acting director and the search committee have to do to make this come about. Do you have a comment on that?
Just to clarify what the chair was just saying, in the PPACG board adopted procurement regs, it allows any expenditure of $25,000 or more to be the sole discretion of the executive director.
You said or more.
I think it's or more, but let's see if I have those. I don't. Well, if it's over 25,000, if it's over 25,000, it's at the sole discretion of the executive director, unless the executive director defers to the board or the executive committee. And for the minutes, I am thus deferring to the board, which is now deferring to the search committee.
And we wanted to make sure that that was clarified. So the motion, with that clarified and on the record, the search committee will have the full authority to execute that, and which includes about half of the executive committee anyway. So, Commissioner?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. I think I'm willing to support this as well. However, I think it's very, very important if we're going to go through this process and we're going to invest, we need a company that has expertise in this area, not just any company. I have seen lots of times, and good, bad, or indifferent, I've seen it in our community where we've gone down the path of hiring a company, maybe because we know they're good folks, they've done work for us in the past, but they were not necessarily experts in that particular endeavor. And we ended up choosing another person that we ended up choosing after a different person 2 or 3 years later. So we really need a company that's got expertise in this area, and I'm ready to vote for this, but I would like that to be noted. We really need to be careful about selecting the right company, not just any company.
To address your question, Commissioners, on the agenda for a week from Friday, 2 items. One is the criteria for selecting a search firm, number one. And number 2 is the profile of the actual executive director we're looking for. So we want to be very, very clear, and even the selection of the search firm is on the list. Got it.
Okay. And one other administrative note as we all go through this process, let's be very careful with the list of candidates, and let's not go share it outside of the search committee or the board of directors, because that is pretty sensitive. So we don't need to be expanding the people throwing their 2 cents in, and that is for the security of the applicants. So if we want to get into any discussions about who it is, we do need to be in executive session until such time we make a formal offer. So a caution, then, please don't share outside of the board of directors or the search committee. With that, we have a motion and a second on the floor. All in favor?
Aye. Aye.
Any opposed?
Aye.
All right. Oh.
Just because.
You mean, did you mean nay?
You mean nay, right?
I meant nay. I will not. So with that, Mr. Chairman, could we also just discuss whether people would be just ahead, not in favor of receiving the rubric to review, or what? I mean, we don't need it for quite some time now because we're going to go out for a search firm, but.
Oh, I think it'd be useful myself.
Okay.
I'd like to see what it is.
Anybody
else?
Okay.
I don't mind seeing the rubrics, but most of us that aren't on that aren't going to have the names to fill in it.
Well, no, we just to see the criteria for the rubric, so that we know when we evaluate candidates, we're including things that are important to this entity, this body. That's all.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you.
As I mentioned, that is on the agenda for a week from Friday, our next search committee meeting. So if you want to inform the committee of things you'd like to see in that profile, this is the way to do it. No, a week from Friday. Next week.
Okay. We've been at it for an hour and a half. Do we want to take a break before we go into reports?
I vote yes.
Okay. Let's try and keep it short, 10 minutes, and come back.
Push and shove first.
That's why it's here.
Where's Matt about? I heard smart cities. I perked up on one hand. Oh, where's Matt? Variety is that mean. Maybe.
Is that what the Japanese just do it over and over?
Yes.
Right.
Downtown. Well, not quite.
Are you going to the Parks Lounge?
I think I'm going to swing by the free lunch.
Otherwise, it just somebody's got you covered. So, you're probably just we had one solar farm we were going to do. Everything was great until right before we started building, and then we changed all the numbers. And you should recognize this area. Oh, so that's going up to path for you. And they want to put a solar array in there. How big? Well, they need 600 acres. What are going to go that big? What's it going to do? Punch right into the grid? But, as I said, we didn't need to have. Yeah, there's some of those down by Alamos.
So,
that's us?
What, the list, the probably list, what do you think from staff? More flexibility, so because 267 doesn't
We can't.
Oh, so those are all little.
We're going to look to see what the requirements are. The one thing I didn't mention this time, but the bill looks like 25% of the project needs to go to counties that have a population of 25,000 or less. Probably might be my guess. My guess would be, but that's why I didn't bring it up, because I mean we still need to.
Because Andy Tarzan has said, it depends how you count.
Okay.
And I don't know.
Right. So those are nuances that
But I've got the bill.
I'm not getting into.
I don't know if there's amendment.
Right. So again, so I'm waiting to see what the guidance is from my bosses before I start going down that
From 3.5 billion, I think it's 1.72 or something.
It's 1.6. So there's $2 billion worth of money, of which 0.2 needs to go to capital and 0.2 needs to go to transit.
200 billion a number? Or?
Yeah, 200 million needs to go to,
What's about 10%?
Right. So 10% is 200 million needs to go to capital projects, so 2 billion. So right now, the measure is for 2 billion. 10% needs to go to capital. So it's $2 billion that we're financing, of which 10% has to go to capital improvement projects for the state. 10% has to go to transit projects. Leaves you with $1.6 billion for capital improvements on transportation. Does that make sense? So $200 million goes to transit. $200 million goes
from the one lease option with the property that we're going to put Region 2 headquarters up for sale, and then
right.
That craziness of taking, we're going to find $2 billion in state real estate.
Yes and no.
Like right now, there's nobody in Park County.
CDOT would have to pay back $50 billion a year towards payback of the bonds, and the bonds would be up to $150 million a year. they said 100 million would come from the general fund, 50 million from CDOT. So it's not all just refinancing. We have to actually put real money into the business.
I mean, I've read through it. It is the most convoluted.
Right. I have not read through it. I've just gotten the clip notes. The clip notes
I've
say.
read the first one, 36 hours ago. I've not seen what happened yesterday.
Right. So that's why I don't get into the details too much, because I don't want to create too much confusion until clarification comes down. Otherwise, but 50 million would have to come from CDOT a year. It said by the time at the end of the payback of that bill, it may be 250 million that we'd have to be paying back cash, not finance. But it says like, 50 million from CDOT, 100 million from other legal sources. So they leave it flexible, but right now we're hoping that the general fund it would hurt us a lot. So some of it's bond financing. Like our Region 2 old headquarters, maybe we're
Excuse me, sir. Sell it for parts. So sell the bricks to people want. Yeah, sure.
Hi, Mark. Excuse me. So I don't know. I mean, I think this list we still have is good, but also
Andy talked about the last act that was prioritized within Tier 1. EDC was within Tier 1.
Yeah, it's just hard. What I like better is, like they said, okay, this is 3.5 billion, but I think other projects would
Just move the red line up.
That's the problem. I wouldn't put this project forward. I'd put a different project. So, like, for example, the freeway, if it was a 3.5 billion, I'd go for the $130 million project. If it's the 1.6 billion, I'd go for my $50 million on the freeway. So the project would completely change. I would not construct this one. I would construct this one. Now it's all new freeway.
Change the scope of it. Same project, the scale and all that.
Completely different project, same corridor.
If I slow down at all, it's awkward.
So it just depends. So that's my point. It's like in out east, it's the same thing. Like if I had my 3.5 billion, I'd do the whole river route. If I only have this much, I might widen the Highway 50 instead. So that's where it's not clean.
Decides, you need to run that through the MPS.
Yes, we would.
Because we're going to carry the water.
We would.
In the public.
Right. We would. However, that's my point. It's like if we only did, I think it came out to like 280 million for Region 2 with this new list. I'm not going to build a $130 million. You know what I mean? Like they stay alone way wanted, but I'm like, I couldn't do that. So I'm making some key decisions based on what I know are still priorities.
Knowing that you may lose a couple of votes if you drop the project.
Right, but I would drop the 130 million, but I would say here's the $50 million project we could move forward. You know what I mean? So when the project changes, it's just a completely different project. It's the same thing.
Your analysis and engineering also is in my bond.
Right.
But we have to get, if it goes to ballot,
right.
We need to get a list for
right. So I'm making these choices based on what my MPOs and TPRs have told me and what I know of. But like you said, in the end, I need to know first, is it 25% of the money? 25% of the projects? No, it's okay. I don't need, I'm just saying I need to get that direction. I need to get direction, yes. And so if there's maybe, but and it all changes if like, they say fine, we have a project out east or out west that we can put in and that would be it.
They're actually using the autonomous cars and running the DIA up there now. It's amazing. As a test. DIA and say Boulder for their hyperloop. Yeah, that'd be neat.
Okay, everybody, we'll go ahead and come back to order. We'll start off with the reports and the military installation reports.
Mark, I answered your phone. I said go buy them all.
Did you tell them to buy?
Something about buy high and sell low.
Okay. Go ahead.
Again, good morning. Rod Chisholm, Fort Carson. Just one item. You may have seen in the news the past month when we met last month, and a big exercise. Our first combat brigade went down to Pinyon Canyon maneuver site and was joined with some Army forces from Fort Riley and Fort Bragg. It was a very successful maneuver down at Pinyon Canyon. And just a little bit of recent history, there had been a number of years where Pinyon Canyon wasn't being trained to this extent. And then we completed a very thorough environmental impact statement, updated a lot of our environmental and actual protective measures that we would take out there. And so this is the 4th Brigade combat team that we've had go down there in the last 2.5 years and do a major exercise. It was successful, no significant accidents, and so that brigade is getting ready to deploy next year, and this was a critical thing in just their preparation to get ready to deploy. That's all I have.
Nice. Colonel?
Good morning. John Doucette from Peterson Air Force Base. Just a few items to brief this morning as part of our update. So we're getting ready to mark the 25th anniversary of the 21st Space Wing. Several different events planned for the 25th of this month of May. Starting with a fun run up at Cheyenne Mountain Air Force Station. There will be an address by Colonel Chess at the museum at 10 o'clock in the morning. And that evening, there'll be a dinner hosted by General Raymond. So we're real excited for this event and hope to have some great participation in that. So we are still tracking for 21st Space Wing change of command here this summer. No definitive date has been set for that yet. But we will be saying goodbye to Colonel Chess and welcoming Colonel Todd Moore as the new 21st Space Wing commander this summer. So we are also getting ready to support the September Air Show. Really excited about that. And we also recently participated in the Freebird exercise with the Colorado Springs Airport. It's my understanding that was a highly successful exercise. And certainly learned a lot from our perspective in terms of integrating our operations with the community. So pending any questions, that concludes my update.
What was the date that you said the...
25th of May.
25th. Okay.
Yes.
25th
Yes.
and 25th. So there's a contradiction of terms in a fun run. Thank you. Colonel?
All right, good morning. I'm from Schriever Air Force Base. So traditionally, just after the Memorial Day holiday is when we see a big movement in terms of military people coming in and out of the area. We have 7 squadrons changing command this summer, one of our groups, and then also the wing. So we'll have a big changeover in leadership. And we also have one of our squadrons, actually 2 of our squadrons combining. So there will no longer be the 3rd Space Operations Squadron. They're going to combine with the 4th Space Operations Squadron. And luckily, we won't lose any personnel there. They're just going to combine because they have similar missions. It was just recently announced earlier this week that some of our the next echelon of space leadership that's now out at Vandenberg will be moving out to Schriever Air Force Base in the next couple years. So it's great to know that 94 is still kind of on our transportation radar. We're anticipating about another 1,000 folks coming out to Schriever to include a flag officer. We think the first round will be a Navy Admiral, a 1-star, who will live out on the base and also work there. So we're anticipating some MILCON money coming in. We're hoping to start in 19. 20 is probably more realistic. But in the interim, we're working with community partners, landowners around the base there to try to shore up some of the services that we do not have on Schriever. So we do not have lodging there and would love to see a hotel in that area. We do not have anyone who's willing to deliver pizza there. See a pizza place. Unless you want to order like over $100 worth of pizza, you can't get anyone to come out there. Also looking at possibly a fitness facility, maybe partnering with the YMCA, something of that nature. So we'd love to bring some of those services right out there around the base, and we believe it would benefit Ellicott as well. So should be an exciting summer for us, quite a bit of change. And on the schedule, we have Friday night is Air Force Appreciation Night at Sky Sox, and Schriever Appreciation Night at Sky Sox is coming up on 8 June. So they've been very generous with us, supporting us with tickets and that kind of thing, so we appreciate that. And then at the end of June, we're partnering with Ellicott for a summer camp for youth out there, and we hope to leverage that House Bill 17-1054 on community partnering so that we can continue to have those kind of activities between the community at Schriever and Ellicott as well. And
Okay. One question was is that 14th Air Force moving from Vandenberg to here?
They haven't announced exactly which entities will come first, so you may be familiar with, it was called the JICSPOC, the Joint, so they've changed the name to the National Defense Space Center, NDSC, and that's where the military construction will come from, a building for them. They haven't said yet. There are pieces of JSPOC, which is also out at Vandenberg, that will come as part of the NDSC, and then I believe parts of 14th Air Force will come to us at Schriever, and then maybe some of that leadership will go out to Peterson and to Building 1 with the F Space headquarters. So yes, I believe that it will all come to us eventually.
Seeing JSPOC move from Vandenberg to here is kind of full circle, because when I was in the mountain, they were in the mountain.
Yes.
So what goes around comes around. Yes, Colonel.
Again, Mike Shirley from the Air Force Academy. Sticking with the theme, we have a lot of people rotating out, somewhere just short of 1,000. As you know, we have cadets that will be leaving. So that will be on the 2 weeks from today, actually, the graduation for the cadets. And then also the superintendent, if you saw, she's named her retirement date in August. So she'll be rotating out. We're picking up the new Commandant of Cadets on Monday. She'll be taking over on Monday, the 15th. The wing commander will be PCSing very soon. His change command is tentatively set for the 20th of June. The group commanders is the 22nd of June. So there's a lot of turnover. And if I can make it to the 21st, mine will be on the 21st. But it's not looking good for me making it that long. So, but we do appreciate the support we get out there at the academy. Also, we got Police Week coming up next week. We're with all the surrounding agencies. We've partnered with them. We'll have some pretty good. We have some motorcycle rides. We're going to go through all the bases, all 5 front range bases, and we're going to also probably do some shooting competitions and stuff. Usually the city takes, but we still have fun doing it. So, and then lastly, they talked about it last month. You've probably seen the gate project has started. Really no delays at this time. We're still getting ramped up for that. But it looks like we're going to be doing a tri-intersection. If anybody comes on the base, the tri-intersection bridge will be getting replaced, just like we did the Northgate Bridge. So that'll be a little bit of delay on the base. But we're working through it, and it looks like we hadn't been too much of a hassle yet, I hope, for people off of 25 in that area. So that's all I have for today. For pending any questions, thank you. Oh, we do get a lot of pizza deliveries. You got about 6 or 7 places you can choose from. We have 2 on base, actually. So.
Great, thank you. Executive Directors.
Rick Sonnenberg again. 3 or 4 things. First, the PPACG Area Agency on Aging Yellow Book is out and is being delivered at various regional locations. We have spares out in the front lobby if you want to grab a handful on your way out. Same applies to the, yes, sir? Yeah. Oh, okay. Also, the PPRTA annual report, 2017 annual report is out. We just received it yesterday from the printer, and there's one copy each for you, and these are also being delivered to governmental locations and libraries and nonprofits in the area in the next few days. I do have some spares if you want to grab a fistful from me. 2 or 3 other things. The Executive Director Search Committee meets in this room, and the next 2 dates that they've scheduled are Friday the 19th and Thursday the 25th, both at 3 p.m. to 5 p.m. in this room, the 19th and the 25th. 2 other dates that you might want to note on your calendar. The board has subcommittees both to review the board bylaws and the personnel employee handbook. And those subcommittees are meeting back-to-back on May 24 at 1 o'clock for the board bylaws subcommittee. Same day, a little bit later, May 24 at 3 o'clock for the employee handbook subcommittee. That's all I have.
Great. TAC.
Good morning. Brian Vituli with the City of Colorado Springs Mountain Metropolitan Transit and Chair of the Transportation Advisory Committee. We met last month and recommended approval of all the action items that you approved today. So that was TIP Amendment 9, the Long Range Transportation Plan Goals and Vision, and the CDOT Priority Project List. And we're also continuing to meet with our TIP Policy Task Force. So we meet before our regularly scheduled TAC meeting, and we're hoping to have a recommendation to the full TAC membership in June and then to you in July. So are there any questions?
Questions? Thank you.
All right, thank you.
And the CAC.
Mr. Chairman, Kevin Walker again, first Vice Chair of the CAC. We had our meeting last week, a couple weeks ago, and we were pleased to have Mr. Pico join us for at least a portion of the meeting, so that was, we appreciate that. We had a lot of the technical items that you've heard and passed on. We've commented on one today. We had 3 principal things that we discussed at our meeting. One was the goals and objectives that were passed earlier today. And so we had a lot of discussion about that. We were very appreciative of staff's efforts to sort of restart the whole thing and start from scratch rather than just continue on with the old way of doing things. And I think we turned out with a much improved set of goals. Second was the priority projects, which we commented on earlier today, so I won't go into that. And we had a lot of discussion around that, probably 45 minutes worth. And then we also had a fairly long discussion about the committee's roles and responsibilities and what we're doing and how we can do better and how we can better serve all of you. And we're implementing a few changes to that, little things as to how we run our meetings and who we invite to speak. We're having Mr. Scott speak to us at the end of this month and hoping to have some other invited guests to that. And we know that we work for you, so we recognize that if we're going to be doing anything drastic, we need to come back here and let you know what we're doing. So I'll answer any questions.
Thank you. Any questions?
Thank you.
The Regional Advisory Council.
Good morning. I'm Dave Betzler. You have our monthly report before you. The only thing I call your attention to is that the Technical Review Subcommittee, we've met twice, and the third meeting will be on Monday afternoon. That's the finalization on the recommendation that goes to the RAC for the FY18 budget. So we're moving along in that direction. So pending any questions, that's all I have to say.
Okay. Any questions? Thank you. CDOT monthly update. Now we get to hear about Cimarron Bridge.
Before we jump into Cimarron, just a couple notes. We've got our construction program kicking off. We'll be doing resurfacing on US 24 west or east from Constitution to Garrett, improving the intersection at Garrett Road as well. We've already started construction, but we're going to take the westbound lanes entirely and move traffic one way on the existing eastbound lane. So that's a project that will be finishing up this year. In Fremont County, we're resurfacing US 50 and State Highway 9 as one project, and that's about ready to kick off. Teller County, State Highway 67, we'll kick that off soon. That goes from just south of Deckers to Woodland Park, and then from Divide up to Cripple Creek. So that overlay will be starting. Just a brief update on our US 24 West protocol. We're doing the same as what we did last year. So we're monitoring in conjunction with National Weather Service to be prepared if we get a big event or a series of events. That's where we seem to have the flooding concerns, is where we have a series of events where we get an inch or more over a period of time. So we'll be prepared if we do get some type of event, but we're not anticipating closing the road as frequently as we did in the past. In fact, we hope with the growth and that we had up there, we're seeing less flooding. So we're hoping that we get through another year without any closures at all. So with that, I'm going to turn this over to Dave Watt for Cimarron.
Is there still the app last year? You could get it out or something and then close the highway?
I think it's still out there.
It's not an app, but
It's a text. Text alert.
cotrip.org. Then you can just you can sign up for particular alerts.
Yeah.
By region or by corridor. I think this one has a particular corridor for this area, so you could just sign up for that if you want.
All right, thank you.
Good morning. Dave Watt, one of Mark and Karen's resident engineers for the I-25 Cimarron project. There are two handouts coming around. Next month we'll go full paper. We'll go away from the paper clip. They cling up a little bit. We'll go full staples. We'll go to that technology. I'll be brief. I've got about 4 or 5 points I'd like to make with the project, and I do want to emphasize we remain on budget and on schedule. And that on schedule, targeting a end of October, what we're calling operational completion. So permanent lane configuration, the single-point urban interchange will be operating, the quadrant intersection will be operating, and we will not be having any further closures, and we will be back with a 65-mile-an-hour speed limit about that time. I want to emphasize that doesn't take into account any type of weather delays we happen. If we have the type of events that Mark just discussed that can affect 24, things can happen to push that out. But I do want to emphasize that we're on budget and feel good about the schedule. Coming up, the latter part of Phase 2 that we are in, we'll complete Phase 2 the middle to latter part of July. So you're going to see the continuation of I-25 paving for the northbound lanes. If we can get the rain to kind of clear out, we're going to do some prep work, and there will be a nighttime closure to allow that paving of the asphalt and get a better product and use the detour that we've put in place and had worked for us before. That'll be the northbound I-25 work. You've seen some bridges that have gone up in place. We're working the I-25 overpass at 24 and Fountain Creek. That continues. You're also seeing the pedestrian bridges that have come and been set on site. We'll continue on with connecting up the trails, but the pedestrian bridges are now in place over Fountain Creek and over Monument Creek, so we're starting to see those connections come together to tie in the Pikes Peak Greenway Trail, the Midland Trail, and going into America the Beautiful Park. Also starting up this week is what we've been referring to as the quadrant intersection. That's going to help us relieve some congestion at the 24 and 8th Street intersection. That was not something that had been contemplated as part of the original scope of the project. Rather, it was a contractor-defined additional requested element. So this goes directly to the first goal of the project to provide congestion, capacity, and safety improvements within the available budget. So it is within that initial budget that we established for the project, but this was added value that the Kramer TSH team provided. It's now been about 2 years since we last discussed that with the board, but this was part of the original proposal to the department and one of the real benefits of the design, build, delivery that we were able to achieve with this project. So that's starting up, and you'll see some construction going on where the Express Inn Hotel used to be. The Acorn gas station remains and remains open, and there'll be some impacts to the businesses to the west side of 8th Street, but they will remain open, and they are going to have far better access when we're complete with the quadrant intersection. There'll be a traffic light to help people get onto and off of 8th Street, but also in and out of that shopping mall on the west side of 8th Street and south side of Highway 24. That'll be the latter part of what we're calling Phase 2, and as then we go into Phase 3, that completes the median work, that completes some Colorado Avenue Bridge repair and rehabilitation efforts we're doing, as well as some bridge preventive maintenance work on that Colorado Avenue Bridge, and we'll be completing the landscaping. And that's also in that latter stages of Phase 3, we'll be finishing the connections of the trail system. Next couple months, we're going to try to continue to get the word out about as we get closer to the quadrant intersection open. And I don't think that has a lot of meaning to the commuters, but this is a similar operation to what we've done with the directional diamond interchange at Fillmore and I-25. So we'll be getting some word out there about how this is going to operate, the benefits of that, and get some expectations about the changes coming just ahead of when we open that up. But we're looking forward to that, and we continue to move forward, and also be coming back in the future months, probably this summer, with some potential savings. And Karen and Mark and I have had some discussions about where those savings might go on the I-25 corridor, but that still forthcoming.
Commissioner? Something like that, yeah. Yeah. Well, I think it was 4 years ago when it first came up to try to get the one.
What was the overall cost of the whole thing?
If we don't count the landscaping contribution from the City of Colorado Springs, we've been saying $113 million.
It's an amazing project, and it's awesome. And good job keeping it on time and on budget.
I've been fortunate to be able to work with a fantastic team and working on a priority that was clearly established and conveyed. It's 4 years ago, there was not the $95 million or the $113 million for that. So when we were talking earlier about the money falling out of the sky, good things happen.
Good things do happen.
This wasn't available 4 years ago.
When you're ready for them, yeah. Mayor?
This is actually for Mark, if that's okay. Just wondered if you had any good news for me on a traffic light.
I did say I would update you on that. I have asked our traffic unit to look at prioritizing that signal. It doesn't look like it's going to prioritize over the current list of signals that they have. So they're looking at out years to fund it. I don't have the out year that it'd be funded. The problem is it just doesn't meet the signal warrants over other needed signal warrants for projects. With that said, we're going to go through, reevaluate funding for 21st and 31st Street, looking at our RPP funds going to that. If we can free up some money on 24 West for those projects, I guess it's possible that's an option. But right now, our RPP list has got too many needs and not enough money. So that I'm not saying that isn't an option, but it's something we can look at.
What's the cost, the general cost?
It's probably $300,000 to do a signal there. Yeah. All right. Okay. Good. Good. All right. Thank you.
The CSU is happy to contribute to that as well. Yes, Commissioner?
Is there a formal ribbon cutting or dedication for the I-25
Oh, yeah.
interchange? And what are 5 or 6 months out, but is that on the list?
It is. We're planning that now. As we get closer, it'll be in the fall, depending on what we get done and how quickly we get it done. We have to do the Colorado Avenue Bridge as a change order to really smooth out the bridge and add on to that project. So we're going to have some congestion with that, so we don't want to do it in advance of that. So, and I think Dave, we're looking at September, October-ish. Is that too premature?
We'll be doing a ribbon cutting in the fall time frame when improvements are in place, and we're going to try to have a media event in July when we won't be done. You're still going to be driving at 55 miles an hour. There's still work to be done on the median, but we're going to try to acknowledge the quadrant intersection opening up, and the single point urban interchange should be operating as well. So clean things up and power through with a media event. I wouldn't call it the ribbon cutting, but a media event to get the word out that we're at the home stretch. We still have $10 million to spend, so this is still work to be done.
I could just envision this ribbon being stretched across the lanes. Yeah. Commissioner?
You know, we all tend to think about the physical outcome of a project like that, but the extent to which I've learned about it, I think there are some wonderful, truly marvelous stories about how CDOT worked with the local community and worked with the contractor to get value for money. And I scold my friends at CDOT, said, you guys promote like engineers, and, you know, I love you for it because I'm one of those. But I do think that there are some terrific benefits of the way trails were handled. I mean, there's just story after story about not only value for money, but value for just the day-to-day resident who's using it as not only a big piece of transportation infrastructure, but as part of the infrastructure that supports life in general in the community. I don't know how to get that story out well. I mean, I can scold, but it doesn't mean I know any better way to do it. But it's phenomenal. And I'll just tell you, I went to the one of the first things I did as a commissioner, I went to the midpoint briefing, I guess what it was. And I was amazed because I remember interacting with CDOT in the past, and let's just say there was some tension. When we went around the room, every single community organization that was there said that the level of cooperation and anticipation of their needs and how to meet them was outstanding. So the other thing engineers don't do is celebrate their successes very well. But I think as a community at some point in time, there ought to be not only a ribbon cutting, but I think some storytelling as well.
Thank you. I'll pass.
You mentioned in the past of signs that say park in Teller County this way. Are we still on the list of signs, park in Teller County?
We could talk about that.
It may be
maybe graffiti. Thank you, Commissioner. I'll pass that on the team. And with regard to your comments, Commissioner Scott, thank you. And I think we'll talk about those opportunities. I think in the media event and things like that. So the stories that need to be told, but. Thank you. I'll pass on those comments to the team. Thanks.
I think the Park County signs could be part of the landscaping, right?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay, STAC update. Yeah.
Quite a busy agenda last meeting, but really the focus for this board was the discussion on the transportation funding bill. We know that House Bill 1242 is dead, but Senate Bill 267, we didn't think it would survive, but it's very much alive. We expect it to likely pass today. And it does specifically mention by name on page 68 of the legislation that the monies shall be used for qualified federal aid highway projects that are included in the Strategic Transportation Project Investment Program for the Department of Transportation that are designated in Tier 1 funding. So our discussion on this project list is very much relevant to how we proceed. A lot of discussion about where this project list comes from, how it's developed, how it's vetted, how is it processed around the state. And there was a lot of discussion around the table at STAC that this, especially if it goes to public ballot, that STAC members, public elected officials, need to be in on not only the development of it, but the promotion of it statewide. CDOT does great work in developing a list, but if it's going to go to ballot or in public support, local elected officials are the ones who have to carry the water to the public. So several of us made the point at STAC that this needs to be team ball with all the regions around the state and CDOT staff. So our vote today on approving this project list, Tier 1 list, it's significant. We don't lose track of that. Even if 267 does proceed today, as we expect, there may still be citizens' ballots. There are 7 titles, just a reminder, 7 titles were filed by the Contractor Association of Colorado for additional funding. We're at $1.6 billion. Just a reminder, we have $9 billion of unfunded requirements across the state, and 1242 was for $3.5 billion. So we've gone from $9 billion to $3.5 billion to $1.6 billion, and we're, our needs are still great. And anyway, it's very, very significant discussion on how we proceed with vetting around the state. So the point that I continually make to CDOT staff is that we need to be advisory. We need to be engaged. And I don't speak for myself. I don't speak for Teller County. We, Annalee and I and others, speak for you. So when an issue comes on the agenda on short notice and they ask for a staff rep's opinion, my first thought is, what does PPACG think? Because I think I know the heart of Pikes Peak well enough to know generally, but if there are specific issues that are coming up that matter to you, I just want to remind everybody in the board here that we carry the water for you. So if you have an issue, whether it's the 94 corridor or a specific project or anything, we are your representatives to CDOT. So please load us up. I ask for that periodically. So just a reminder. That's all I have, Chair. Okay.
Okay, no questions, comments? Information items, are there any? I don't believe so. Yes, Terry?
I just want to remind everybody that the Armed Forces Day Luncheon is next
Monday?
week on the 15th at the Broadmoor. If you haven't made a reservation, you want to get on with Chamber and EDC, make that reservation. The speaker is Michelle Johnson, who's retiring from the Air Force. General Johnson.
Okay, member entity announcements going around the room. Yes.
First of all, I want to thank everybody from the Pikes Peak region who was in Woodland Park last weekend. We had over 800 runners for the Bronco 7K run. I was a participant. Mayor was there. We had, the most interesting part I thought was when the Bronco cheerleaders led a warm-up session for people on the high school football stadium. We had everybody's attention for that one. Go Broncos. And then secondly, just an announcement, the Teller County Board of Commissioners approved public access for OHVs, off-highway vehicles on limited sections of county roads, about 10.2 miles of the total 500 miles of roads we have. That public access to OHVs begins on May 26th. It's been published, and there'll be appropriate signage. If you're up in Teller County after May 26th, you can now connect that amazing network of forest trails. Now you can connect those trails by way of county roads. So, effective May 26th.
That's cool. Okay, any others? Yes.
Thanks.
Fisher?
Just a couple of things. So, Mark, this goes to CDOT engineers. Just a request. I think it's highway marker mile marker 191 up near Toma Road. If there could be any way that we could be creative in putting a little off-ramp and cutting the wires there, that has a stop sign so people could get on the feeder roads instead of sitting for 2 hours on I-25 when we have a rollover accident and there are tornado clouds developing above us, and you figure out where you're going to run and get out of your car if you need to because you can't get off the highway. So just a request. I think we could do better up around there because it seems to happen frequently up in that area.
So it sounds like you were caught in the same
Yes.
2-hour delay that our staff was caught in that too, and it's a concern. I mean, we've got traffic stopped there for hours and no ability to get there with. So what we're looking at is seeing what we can do for courtesy patrol, stepping that up. So that may be the first option. Let's get if cars are running out of gas or people need to get off, if there's an emergency.
Right.
Let's try some courtesy patrol to get the traffic cleared sooner. We may not be able to clear the rollover that occurred.
Right.
But maybe we can get traffic off onto the frontage road. The other thing is we're looking at is advanced VMS boards before you get to Plum Creek to try to get traffic off I-25. Now, that's going to divert to County Road 105 and 83 more so, but I think that's what we need to do. We need to tell the public in advance of that that there's a delay. So we have VMS boards, we just don't have enough, and they're not strategically located.
Well, and it just wasn't soon enough. By the time that I received the text, it already sat there an hour. I'm like, thank you.
So yeah. So the access with the guardrail, maybe openings in the guard that we can look at. We put that cable rail up because we were getting a lot of cut through traffic into the frontage road, which was unsafe. But now it's gotten to the point where if we can monitor that.
Right. If you can strategically do it and people know where that cut point is and there's a stop sign, look both ways, cross the street like we're used to doing.
So FHWA controls the interstate, and they demanded we put that up. So we are looking at options that we can do for an interstate configuration, but that's Region 1 area. It's not Region 2. But I was stuck in that also. We are trying to work on solutions for the whole corridor, but we have legal constraints, and it's an interstate, and we can't have access off onto the frontage road. So there's issues, there's safety issues, and there's interstate issues. So we're trying to come up with a solution that can work for everyone. And I did call the TOC, which is our Traffic Operations Center, and said, why didn't you send a text? And there's some communication glitches that we're working on, but also Denver was having all those hailstorms at the time, so they were overwhelmed with that. So we recognize it's an issue, and we're striving to come up with other solutions too.
Just my recommendation if we could do it. So second thing, I just wanted to invite everybody on Thursday, May the 25th. If you don't want to run in the tunnel, the Board of County Commissioners is going to be having a work session on Lighthouse Prime, which is an alternative, potentially looking at an alternative communication strategy for if and when we would need to have something where there is an extended power failure or something, fires, floods, where we didn't have normal communication that worked adequately or properly. So you're welcome to come to that. It's 200 South Cascade from 9 to 11 on Thursday the 25th.
Councilwoman?
Senate Bill 267 just passed 49 to 16. Goes to the governor now, right.
All right. So you are relieved of your responsibility to update us.
Quick reminder, 1.6 versus 3-some billion. Commission next week is going to look at how we turn a $3.5 billion list into a $1.6 billion list. To be honest, I'm not sure how that's going to go, but no matter how it goes, if you just do the math, I think we're 300 to 600, is that right on the gap? 300 to 600 million?
Yeah, to about 500 million, yeah. And it depends on how we finance it, for the project between Castle Rock and Monument.
So just reemphasizing the challenges lie ahead still. And I encourage ballot issues, but anybody, I think Karen alluded to this, sales tax doesn't poll very well. Right? Which isn't to say that it can't happen, but I think the probability that we have a solution in hand is small.
Okay. Commissioner?
Yeah, thank you, Chairman. Just a couple quick updates from the county. The board recently approved a capital investment in the replacement of the radios that are in our vehicles, $500,000 project. It's because the previous radios were obsolete, out of date, couldn't be repaired, and these new radios will be common across the county. It will actually help with things like road maintenance and so forth. Also, we've got some capital equipment replacements going on with regard to road maintenance vehicles. This includes snow plows and other vehicles, and we've been buying some new equipment here recently, which is going to be very helpful. This includes some smaller vehicles for snow removal that will allow us to get into smaller roads that we've sometimes had difficulty getting into, and that'll be helpful for the technology. And we talked a little bit about technology in the strategic planning here. So we are evaluating different types of technology to include technology that would allow us to manage our vehicle fleet better as far as maximizing their effectiveness, where they're located, and so forth. And that's kind of a GPS-driven, but there's other technologies embedded in that. And there are other things that the county is doing. So I think we're doing some pretty good things in the county with regard to improving our road capital investments and maintenance, and I just thought I'd mention that briefly. In case anybody's interested, we can talk about that further. Thanks.
Are those radios part of the same regional radio thing?
Are they? I don't know.
PRCN, that's what I was thinking of, yeah. Those are part of the PRCN? Okay.
I'm being told they are.
Okay.
So.
Can't imagine you put 500.
No, those radios are, without getting into the technology details which were not presented to us, my understanding is they're compatible with everything on purpose so that they are flexible.
Unless you get the mountains.
That's coming.
Coverage is another issue, yeah. GPS satellite, right? Yeah. Okay, any other member entity announcements? Seeing none, you've got the meeting schedule in your packet. Any other questions, comments? We are adjourned 5 minutes early.